That day, I walked out of the company of Party A. Driving my yellow Lotus Elise, I headed home. Just as I reached the garage, I was stunned. There was an identical car parked inside the garage. I got out to take a closer look, except for the license plates. Everything was exactly the same. Then it hit me. In the rush of handling business that morning, I hadn't driven my car. Instead, I'd hailed a ride. I scratched my head. What are the odds of running into an exact match of such a rare car? Unbelievable. Hurriedly, I drove the car back to where I'd taken it. Then I hailed another ride back home. Just as I was about to head out for dinner, my phone rang. Is this Mr. Jong Wonson? Yes, that's me. And who's this? This is the Zikang Enforcement Bureau. We've apprehended someone who stole your car. Please come and identify it. I was completely baffled. Isn't my car safely parked? I thought. But when the Enforcement Bureau calls, you can't just ignore it. I drove to the bureau. Standing before me were Party A's representative, the old security guard, and a stunning woman I didn't recognize. From the officer's explanation, I pieced together what had happened. Right after I'd returned the car, this woman had tried to drive it away. The security guard, assuming it was my car, thought it looked way too expensive to let her drive off with it so casually. The woman claimed to be the owner, but said she'd forgotten her registration. The guard didn't believe her. He threatened to call the police. The woman, confident but confrontational, snapped back, "Go ahead, call them." The officers, after hearing the story, asked to check the surveillance footage. Sure enough, it showed me driving that car over earlier. Moreover, Party A's representative confirmed it was indeed my car. After all, cars like this are rare to find on the market. Thus, the woman was taken to the Enforcement Bureau. I explained the whole situation to the officers. The woman, feeling extremely wrong, insisted on settling the matter with me directly. The heated argument left both Party A's representative and the security guard feeling quite awkward. They didn't know how to make amends. Eventually, they both quietly left. I patted the door of my car. Who would have thought we'd both love the same car? Must be fate, I said. The woman snorted. Fate? I'd rather not have it. She explained that she didn't even like the car much when she bought it. She only got it to stand out from the crowd. Just like choosing unique clothes. To avoid matching outfits with anyone else. I assumed that would be the last I'd see of her. But to my surprise, at a banquet later that evening, we ran into each other again. She was holding a glass of champagne and couldn't help but remark, "What a small world." I raised my glass slightly. "Miss, I assure you what happened earlier was truly a misunderstanding. Allow me to apologize, will you?" She turned on her heel, not interested. But less than 10 minutes later, her father brought her over to me. "Zhejiang," he said, "let me introduce you. This is my daughter, Liu Ryan. She just returned from overseas, where she studied jewelry design." I politely raised my glass again. "Nice to meet you, Miss Liu." Her father introduced me in turn. "This is John Wonson, an Ivy League graduate, and the son of the chairman of Zhou Jewelry, a nationally renowned jeweler." Liu Ryan raised an eyebrow. "Zhou Jewelry? But the chairman's last name is Zhou, not Zhang. Then why does the son have the last name Zhang?" she asked. I explained to her. It's an old family tradition to honor the third generation with a different surname. Liu Ryan snorted. "Third generation tradition? More like cutting off your own lineage." Her father frowned deeply. "Ryan, mind your manners." I waved my hand dismissively. "It's all right. In fact, relying on a surname to preserve a family legacy," I said, "is in itself quite absurd. For regular folks like us, a last name doesn't determine whether we eat. It's just a label after all. And it's not like we're vying for a throne. In the past, even those noble families eventually faded into oblivion, didn't they? Hearing my perspective, Liu Ryan seemed to have a noticeable shift in her opinion of me. The host of the banquet was actually an old comrade of mine. We hailed from the same hometown and served in the same year of conscription. You could say we had a bond forged in life and death moments. Although technically, we shared those moments because of our squad leader. Jida approached me with a sly grin. "So how was your introduction?" I glanced at Liu Ryan's retreating figure. "She's just a woman," I said. "What's the big deal?" Jibota pointed a finger at me. "I think you're doomed." I stared at him in confusion. "Why would you say that?" "In all the years I've known you," he replied, "I've never seen you look at a woman like that before. Face it, my friend, you've fallen in love." I waved my hand. "Impossible." "Absolutely not. I'm not the type to enjoy suffering. Wouldn't it be better to find a sweet girl, like your younger sister?" He punched me lightly in the chest. "Get out of here. My sister's only 10 years old. Don't talk nonsense. Honestly, I think someone like Liu Ryan is just what you need to keep you in check." As I left the banquet, I saw Liu Ryan, one foot propped on a tire, looking absolutely furious. I had no idea who had upset her this time. I wasn't about to poke the hornet's nest, so I planned to take a detour. But just a few steps away, I realized something. She was standing on my car, so I turned back. "Miss Liu," I called. Liu Ryan turned, her face cold, and holding the car keys in her hand. "What?" she snapped. "I don't have time to deal with you." I pulled out my own keys and pressed the unlock button. The car's lights flashed once. "I understand," I said, "but I need to head home. Could you step aside, please?" She froze for a moment. Her face turned red instantly. I opened the car door. "Want a ride?" I asked. She stomped her foot. "No need. Just make sure you drive this car as little as possible from now on." I scoffed. If she were a man, I'd have shown her an internationally recognized friendly gesture, telling me to drive less? Why don't you just get a different car? Annoyed, I didn't head straight home. Instead, I drove to a bar. It was a quiet lounge bar, so the ambience wasn't overly noisy. I took a seat at the bar counter, ordered a cocktail and some chips. And just as I lifted the glass, a familiar figure appeared next to me. "Tony," she said to the bartender. "A glass of milk at a bar?" I turned to look. No way! Of course, it was Liu Ryan. Why did it feel like her presence was haunting me? She was dressed in formal office attire, but paired it with flat sneakers. She noticed me too, glanced in my direction, then quickly turned her head away. Neither of us broke the silence, and we just sat there, peacefully coexisting. But then, someone approached her with a drink in hand. "Hey there, miss," he said. "Are you here alone?" Liu Ryan gave the man a once-over, but didn't say a word. Then, the man pushed her glass of milk aside and placed his own drink in front of her. "What do you want to drink?" "Let me treat you," he offered with a grin. Liu Ryan adjusted the buttons on her shirt calmly. The man's face went pale, as if he had seen a ghost. He stammered something about being drunk, slapped himself across the face, and bolted, as though staying a second longer might cost him his life. The scene caught my attention. Her eyes met mine. "What's the matter?" she said. "Are you thinking of offering me a drink too?" I averted my gaze, choosing to ignore her, but she moved closer instead. "Don't ignore me, Miss Liu," I said. "Order whatever you like. It's on me, consider it my apology." She rested her hand on my shoulder. "A single drink to settle things? Isn't that a little too cheap?" I frowned slightly. "What do you want then?" Her lips curled into a smile, her captivating almond-shaped eyes practically glittering. "I just got back from abroad, haven't even landed a job yet, and I'm already being mistaken for a car thief. I desperately need a job to support myself," she added, mock seriously. Good thing I hadn't taken a sip of my drink, or she'd have been wearing it. Her family was one of the wealthiest in the city. The idea that she needed a job was laughable. Clearly, she had an agenda, but I wasn't interested. And then I asked. She tapped her finger lightly on the bar counter. I want to be the chief designer at Joe Jewelry. I scoffed. Keep dreaming, I said, standing up and walking out. I opened the car door, sat in the passenger seat, and called for a designated driver. I felt something under my foot. Looking down, I saw a pair of bright red high heels lying there. Just as I was wondering about them, the driver's side door opened. Liu Ryan climbed in. Our eyes met, and I was the first to speak. Miss Liu, could you please lock your car doors in the future? What if something goes missing? This time, I'll let it slide. But if it happens again, I'll have to reprimand you, I said, reaching for the seatbelt to get out. A soft hand gripped my wrist. Liu Ryan's gaze turned icy. Do you think my car is one you can just get in and out of at will? She said this, then started the engine, shifted gears, and slammed on the gas in one seamless motion. I was shocked. Where are you taking me? If you don't want to die, sit still and don't distract me, she replied coolly. As the car accelerated, I could feel my heart racing up to my throat. The car sped along the road, overtaking every vehicle in its path. This is dangerous driving. I yelled, let me out. I'm begging you. I'm sorry. And I'll let you join Joe Jewelry. The car slowed down slightly, but I added quickly, to be the chief designer, you'll have to prove yourself. Suddenly, the car swerved sharply, causing a truck behind us to blare its horn incessantly. Finally, we stopped at the city's most famous hilltop spot. This was a well-known dating spot for couples, and the best place to watch the sunrise. As the car came to a halt, I didn't rush to get out, because walking back to the city from here would take at least 4 hours without breaks, and I knew I wasn't fit enough for that ordeal. Why did you bring me here? I asked. Liu Ryan gave me a look that screamed, asterisk, you know exactly why, asterisk. What else would I be doing here? She replied, of course, to watch the sunrise. I was speechless. Big sister, I said, have you even checked the time? It's only midnight right now. There are still more than 5 hours until sunrise. Liu Ryan fixed her gaze on me. Do you really dislike being with me that much? The question caught me off guard. This is only the 3rd time we've met, I said, and the first time we've been alone together. Why are you acting like you're pursuing me? And I'm the one rejecting you? Liu Ryan broke eye contact, reclined her seat, and closed her eyes to rest. I couldn't help but notice. Her figure was absolutely stunning. Curves in all the right places. Everything proportioned just perfectly. Full where it needed to be, and slender where it should be. As if sensing my gaze, she spoke, her tone icy. Enjoying the view? For some reason, I foolishly mumbled, yes. And then, to my surprise, I felt my face heat up. Thankfully, it was dark out. Then she asked another question. Do you want to touch? That I absolutely couldn't dare. With her temper, I'd probably end up as the next Condor hero. When I didn't respond, she scoffed. Coward. Recalling the scene at the bar, I decided to change the subject. Miss Liu, I asked, can I ask you something? She opened her eyes. I don't have a boyfriend, she said preemptively. If that's what you're thinking. I waved my hands quickly. You've misunderstood. I wanted to ask, what did you show that guy at the bar? To scare him so badly, she pinched at the buttons on her shirt with her fingers. Want to see? She asked in a voice that was oddly enchanting. Before I could think, I found myself meekly saying, yes. Without hesitation, she undid the top to buttons of her shirt, revealing fair skin, a sensual collarbone, and a tattoo, with no light in the car. Only the faint glow of the moon illuminated her. I couldn't make out the design. Had enough, she asked. I nodded, then turned to look out the window, choosing to say nothing further. The atmosphere in the car felt heavy. I had no idea what Liu Ryan was thinking. It was quite cold on the mountain at night. I wasn't dressed warmly, and soon started to feel chilled. Miss Liu, I said, could you turn on the heat? I'll refill your gas tank tomorrow as thanks. Without a word, Liu Ryan tossed me a women's coat from the back seat. And that was that. No further reply. It was almost insulting. That's when I noticed a camper van parked not far away. I unfastened my seatbelt, pushed open the door, and stepped out into the cold wind. Walking up to the camper, I knocked on the door. A voice came through the intercom. What do you want? I came up here to watch the sunrise, I said, but I was in a rush and didn't prepare well. Could I borrow your camper to warm up? It's inconvenient, the voice replied. I pulled out my phone. I can pay you like it's a 5-star hotel, and I'll throw in a tank of gas, I offered. After a pause, I heard the sound of the camper's door unlocking. A girl with thick black-rimmed glasses, wearing bunny pajamas, appeared at the door. Beside her was a small toy poodle, peeking nervously out from behind her. Come on in, she said. Don't let the warm air escape. I glanced back at Liu Ryan. She made no move to follow, so I climbed into the camper on my own. Thanks a lot, I said as I stepped inside. The interior of the camper was adorned with a girlish aesthetic. It seemed she was staying here alone. Just as I sat down, a steaming cup of something warm appeared in front of me. Warm yourself up first, she said. Don't catch a cold. I thanked her and took a sip. The taste was odd. Holding the cup, I asked curiously, excuse me, what brand of coffee is this? She burst out laughing. You're really something else, she said. You can't even tell this is *Banlang. Scratching my head, I replied, it's not that I can't tell. I've just never had it before. Too easy awkwardness. I changed the subject. Are you here by yourself? I asked. She pointed to her phone and my hundreds of viewers in the live stream chat. That's when I realized she was streaming live. I quickly apologized and offered a compliment to the camera. What a kind and beautiful young woman she is, I said, genuinely. Feeling that I'd warmed up enough, I prepared to leave. I asked her for her payment code to reimburse her, but she refused outright. I'm doing this out of kindness, she said. If I take money, it changes the meaning. I asked for her contact information. Just follow my live stream channel, she replied with a smile. Before leaving, I handed her my business card. Even if it's just a chance encounter, I said, it's still fate. If you ever need help, don't hesitate to reach out. As I was about to leave, she handed me a small nap blanket, the kind used for quick rests. It was faintly scented with her perfume. Back in Liu Ryan's car, her piercing eyes were filled with anger. So you finally decided to come back? You didn't want to turn on the heat, I said. So I had to go beg for a cup of hot water and borrow a blanket to stay warm. Liu Ryan adjusted the backrest of her seat upright. A grown man being so dramatic, she said with a smirk. No wonder you don't have a girlfriend, she sneered. I wasn't about to back down. And a woman as domineering as you? No one's willing to marry into your family. Liu Ryan turned to look at me, but her eyes held no anger. I'm just a woman, she said softly. All alone in the world. If I don't stand strong, I'd be trampled to death. I was about to mock her, asking how someone with such a massive family fortune could be all alone. But then it hit me. Liu Ryan's biological mother had passed away. Her stepmother had given birth to 2 younger brothers. As the saying goes, where there's a stepmother, there's often a stepfather. I didn't know how her stepmother treated her, but there must have been some resentment beneath the surface. I'm sorry, I said sincerely. She looked at me, surprised. Why are you apologizing all of a sudden? It was thoughtless of me, I admitted. I forgot about your circumstances. It must be hard for you being on your own. Her expression softened, and for a moment, she seemed moved. Can I borrow something from you? She asked. Curious, I was about to ask what she meant, but suddenly, she leapt from the driver's seat to the passenger's side, hitting me with playful punches. Then she buried her face against my chest. I could feel her tears soaking through my shirt. All I could do was gently pat her back. She needed to let it all out. To reveal the vulnerable side she rarely showed. As her sobbing subsided, she eventually fell asleep in my arms. I draped the blanket over her legs and her coat over her shoulders. Sharing warmth like this felt even cozier than the camper van. Before I knew it, I too had drifted off. When I opened my eyes again, Liu Ryan had already returned to her usual icy, domineering self. We didn't catch the sunrise. The sky was bright and the mountain was bustling with photographers and hikers. Liu Ryan was the first to speak. About last night, I thumped my chest confidently. Don't worry. The heavens know, the earth knows, and I know. If a third person finds out, you can do whatever you want to me. But life loves irony. By the same afternoon, headlines like Joe Jewelry's prince spends passionate night in car with Liu Corporation heiress Liu Ryan were all over the trending lists. The gossip claimed 3 rounds of passionate kisses in a car and a night spent together The comment section exploded with congratulations, with mentions of a power couple and a match made in heaven Everyone was thrilled for us. To make things worse, someone dug up photos of our identical cars, except for the license plates. Everything matched. It was proof that we'd been dating for some time. I was speechless, my face dark with frustration. Yet, friends kept sending me congratulatory messages. Jiboda, my nosy buddy, teased me relentlessly. Didn't you say at the banquet that she wasn't your type? And by that same night, you're already spending the night together? On a mountaintop, no less. Impressive. He added, be honest. You and Miss Liu have been secretly involved for a while, haven't you? Even my parents started asking about the news. How could I explain? There were photos and videos circulating online, with so many witnesses on the mountain. There was no way to deny it. What could I say? That we only hugged but didn't Nobody would believe me. A man and a woman alone together on a mountain at night. Who wouldn't assume something happened? Luckily, my parents didn't seem too upset. Even the stock market for both families looked promising. Liu's father, however, had a very different reaction. He came to my house that very day, demanding an explanation, and insisted that I take responsibility. I assured him I would do my best to suppress the trending topic, but he shook his head and said, "That's not the issue. I want you to marry Liu Ryan as soon as possible." I wanted to ask him, but would Liu Ryan even agree, but the words got stuck in my throat. Clearly, this wasn't her decision to make. I arranged to meet her privately. She seemed particularly averse to me. Ever since I came back to the country and met you, she said, my life has been one streak of bad luck. Are you cursed? I chuckled. Hard to say. Who knows which one of us is the unlucky charm? She pointed a finger at me. You did promise, didn't you? If a third person found out, you'd let me do whatever I wanted to you. Now it's all over the trending lists, with over 1 million hits. What are you going to do about it? I put on a resolute expression, ready to face my fate. A man stands by his word. What do you want to do with me? Her gaze softened, turning dim. I don't even know what to do anymore. Would you marry me? She asked hesitantly. I was momentarily speechless. I didn't know how to answer. We had only met a few times, and we barely knew each other. Seeing my silence, she nodded slightly. I understand, she said. You don't need to say it. I'll explain everything to my father. She turned to leave, but I grabbed her arm. Can you really explain it? I asked. Your father's already forcing us to marry. She unbuttoned the cuffs of her silky blue shirt, then rolled up her sleeves, exposing both arms. Like this, she said. He won't have any reason to push for a wedding. I looked at her tattooed arms, and my heart felt a sharp pang, an ache mixed with sadness. Without thinking, I pulled her into my arms, holding her tightly. You've been through so much these years, I said softly. What kind of circumstances would force a wealthy heiress to use tattoos as her shield? I couldn't even begin to imagine what she had endured. Perhaps all her tears had dried up the previous night. Liu Ryan's expression remained completely calm. She pushed me away. "If you pity me," she said, "and that's why you want to marry me, then forget it. I don't need anyone's sympathy." I wanted desperately to say it wasn't pity, but she didn't give me a chance to explain. That very night, Liu Ryan issued a public statement. The person in the car wasn't Zhang Wanson, but someone else who merely resembled him. If there's any further spreading of false rumors, legal action will be pursued. The news triggered a flurry of calls and messages. Everyone wanted confirmation. I didn't know how to respond, so I chose silence. But staying silent with my parents wasn't an option, so I explained everything to them. They were deeply sympathetic toward Liu Ryan. To ease the tension, they asked our HR department to offer her a position. It was a gesture of goodwill, hoping that she might spare us from further complications. Liu Ryan accepted the job, but her acceptance sparked another storm online. People speculated that our families were collaborating to stage a publicity stunt. They claimed it was all a promotion for Joe Jewelry's upcoming autumn-winter fashion season, the jewelry design competition and exhibition. Admittedly, the results were impressive, saving us a considerable amount on marketing expenses. But I found myself in a tough spot. Now that Liu Ryan was part of the company, if I acted distant toward her, it would confirm the rumors of a publicity stunt. If I was too friendly, it would solidify the narrative of our supposed romance. It was a slap to Liu Ryan's face. Although she joined as a trainee designer, everyone treated her like the future boss's wife. People showered her with flattery and favors. Meanwhile, I transformed into a full-time salesman. That car couldn't drive it, couldn't sell it either. Every little action turned into a headline. These days, my driver ferried me around in a Toyota Alphard, shuttling between the offices of various asterisk party. The downside of being in the jewelry business was clear. Everyone was asterisk party a asterisk. You couldn't afford to offend any of them. Their requests came in all shapes and forms. The one consolation was that they paid handsomely, especially when they saw the finished product. The balance payments were always settled swiftly. Just as I was finalizing a bespoke jewelry set for a VIP client, my assistant called. "Mr. Zhang," she said in a panic, "you need to return to the office right away. Miss Liu has trashed the design department." I sighed, feeling a headache brewing. It seemed bringing her into the company was a mistake. When I arrived back at the office, it was chaos. Liu Ryan's clothes were disheveled, one sleeve torn off, and her tattooed arm standing out vividly. The design director was in a similarly disheveled state. "What happened here?" I asked. The noisy office immediately fell silent as I entered. I took off my jacket and draped it over Liu Ryan. She flung it to the ground. "I don't need you pretending to be a good person." My assistant picked up the jacket, brushed off the dust, and handed it back to me. Before I could ask any questions, the design director walked up with a cold, aggrieved expression. "Mr. Zhang," he said, "Miss Liu is accusing me of plagiarizing her original designs. I swear I'm innocent." He protested. "Brilliant Star is the result of half a year of my hard work," the design director said. "I have hand-drawn sketches and drafts to prove it. I even personally sourced the diamonds from South America. The chairman knows all about it. But her." I spent a while calming him down, before turning to Liu Ryan and asking, "Could there be some kind of misunderstanding here?" Liu Ryan snapped in anger. "Misunderstanding? Don't twist the facts. That's my design from 3 years ago. How is it suddenly his hard work?" I felt utterly helpless. "Even if what you're saying is true," I said, "this needs to be resolved through proper channels. Causing a scene like this, what does that accomplish?" She pointed a finger at me. "Does a company of thieves like yours even know what proper channels are?" I couldn't hold back anymore. "That's enough. You're crossing a line with these accusations. Joe Jewelry's reputation is well known across the internet. It's a brand that's existed since before the founding of the nation, and I won't allow anyone to smear its name without evidence. Liu Ryan rolled up her remaining sleeve. Fine, she said. I'm smearing you, am I? Then ask her. What's the design concept behind Brilliant Star? The design director stepped closer to me. It's to commemorate a great foreign female monarch, she explained. Her achievements and stature shine as brilliantly as the stars. Radiant and dazzling. Liu Ryan let out a cold laugh. Exactly as I expected. Now let me tell you the real concept behind Brilliant Star. It's a pendant I designed for those who will make outstanding contributions to humanity in the future. I wanted it to symbolize their potential to become shining stars. That's why it has another name, Future Star. Both sides had their arguments, each one claiming to be in the right. I had no choice but to play peacemaker. Since both of you have such strong convictions, I said, let's settle this in the upcoming design competition. Whoever's work ranks the highest will officially be recognized as the designer of Brilliant Star. The design director readily agreed. But Liu Ryan protested. Why should other works decide ownership of this design? That's not fair. Is there absolute fairness in this world? I countered. Do you know what the Matthew effect is? If you can create even better designs, then everyone will naturally believe this one is yours too. If you can't, even if you did design this piece, no one will believe you. After I finished speaking, Liu Ryan clenched her fists tightly. Fine, she said. I'll prove my strength. Once the matter was settled, I instructed the security team to delete all surveillance footage of the incident. I also had everyone present sign a non-disclosure agreement. Later, my assistant approached me. Mr. Zhang, she asked, do you really believe the design director plagiarized her work? I responded with a question of my own. Does it even matter? The design director is a company veteran, trained by one of the best designers in the industry. They've won countless awards. As I just said earlier, even if it's true, no one will believe it. When the workday ended, I had just gotten into my car when Liu Ryan climbed in after me. Miss Liu, I said, have you decided to trade in your sports car for a business ride now? She glanced at the driver. The driver, sensing the tension, activated the car's soundproof partition. I'm here to talk to you specifically, she said. I closed the car door, ready for whatever was coming next. For what happened during the day, I asked. Liu Ryan shook her head. Can you do me a favor? I extended my hand playfully. What's in it for me? She was taken aback. You, what do you want? I had only said it casually, not seriously considering asking her for anything. After a moment's thought, I said, promise me this, don't get into fights with others so easily from now on. She agreed without hesitation. Then I asked, so, what do you need from me? She took a deep breath. Pretend to be my boyfriend, better yet my fiancé. Come with me somewhere. Before I could respond, she drove us out of the city again. This isn't another trip to see the sunrise, is it? I joked. She didn't reply, just kept driving along the county road. Eventually, we entered a small village. She didn't seem to care about her car's undercarriage. As the bumpy ride caused several scrapes and jolts, the village seemed almost deserted. Most of the younger people had left for work in the cities. All that remained were the elderly, especially at night. Apart from the occasional bark of a dog, it was eerily silent. Thankfully, there were solar-powered streetlights. Otherwise, the atmosphere would have been downright creepy. She parked the car and took out some prepared food from the back seat. Bread, cakes, yogurt, and the like. I followed her into a small courtyard. A large dog inside immediately stood up, but didn't make a sound. Even when it saw me, it remained calm. Grandma, she called out, I'm back. From the dark house came an elderly, trembling voice. Is that you, Ryan? As soon as she spoke, the lights inside and outside the courtyard flickered on. An elderly woman, walking with great difficulty, emerged from the house. You always bring so much stuff, the elderly woman said. Grandma can't eat all of this. As she spoke, her gaze fell on me. And this young man is? Liu Ryan, like a little girl, shoved the things into my hands before turning around and holding the old woman's arm. He's my fiancé, she said. His name is John Watson. The elderly woman smiled warmly. No wonder Zihei didn't bark. Turns out it's our future grandson-in-law. The courtyard is chilly. Come inside quickly. I carried the items and followed them inside. The interior was tidy, though the table was covered in medicine. Most of it seemed to be for blood pressure and pain relief. But the rest, I couldn't figure out. The labels had been removed. The elderly woman chatted with Liu Ryan for a while, before turning her attention to me. So, Zhejiang, what do you do for a living? Before I could answer, Liu Ryan chimed in. We work together. I handle production, and he's responsible for sales. The elderly woman stroked Liu Ryan's hand lovingly. Are you tired, my dear? I've heard from the young folks in the village that working on the line is exhausting. If you're short on money, just let Grandma know. Grandma still has some savings. Liu Ryan pouted playfully. I'm not short on money. And I don't work on the production line. I have an office job. After chatting about daily life for a while, the elderly woman asked, when are you two planning to get married? Liu Ryan chuckled. No rush, Grandma. I'm still young. We want to earn more money first. You're not that young anymore, the elderly woman said. When I was your age, your mother was already. She trailed off, her expression bittersweet. Anyway, it's better to marry early. That way, I can still help you two with your children. The night grew late and the house had only one bed, or rather, a traditional Kong bed typical of northern homes. However, not many people still sleep on such beds nowadays. After the lights were turned off, the elderly woman's snores filled the room. I couldn't tell if it was the loud snoring or the unfamiliar bed, but I couldn't sleep at all. Liu Ryan's soft voice came from beside me. Is the bed too hard for you? She asked. There were no curtains in the room. Under the moonlight, I noticed her watery eyes gazing at me, as if they held tiny stars within them. I nodded slightly in response. Without saying a word, she reached out and patted my blanket gently, as if soothing a child. I couldn't help but chuckle softly. In a whisper, I asked, can I hold you while we sleep? Stop with your little thoughts, she replied. Sleep properly. After saying this, her hand relaxed its touch on my blanket. The next morning, the crowing of roosters woke me. The elderly woman was already up, busy in the courtyard kitchen. Liu Ryan was curled up in my arms, quiet as a small rabbit, emitting faint, soft snores. We still had both our blankets, but it was hard to say who had snuggled into whose space. I gently nudged her hair with my nose, debating whether to kiss her forehead. When the elderly woman called out, breakfast is ready, Liu Ryan jerked awake, and our eyes met. Since you're awake, get up, I said, swallowing nervously. My voice came out raspy. Should we stay a few more days to keep Grandma company? She raised her eyebrows and smirked. On one condition. How did you know I had a condition? I asked in surprise. You're just a calculating Joe Scrooge, she teased. Who wouldn't understand your little schemes? My condition is simple, she added. Every night before bed, you kiss me once. And every morning before getting up, you kiss me again. She rolled her eyes at me. You're shameless. If you don't agree, I'll just tell Grandma the truth. You wouldn't want her to find out you lied to her, would you? She reached out and pinched the soft flesh at my waist. You're so bad. Where did you even learn these tricks? The pinch stung and I winced. Just as I was about to grab her hand, she quickly leaned in and gave me a peck on the lips. That's for this morning, she said nonchalantly. Then she stood up, ready to leave. I grabbed her wrist. That's too perfunctory. What about last night's kiss? You owe me that one too. Don't push your luck. Before she could finish her retort, I silenced her words with a kiss of my own. It wasn't until Grandma called out for us again That she broke away, her face flushed. At breakfast, the elderly woman kept piling food into my bowl. Are you used to the food here? She asked kindly. I answered by devouring everything and asking for another bowl, which made her laugh so much she bent over in delight. At that moment, a wiry man entered the courtyard. Well, Zilu is back, he said. And who's this? The elderly woman responded. This is Ryan's fiancé. Liu Ryan's expression darkened when she saw him, but she still managed to greet him uncle. Her uncle sat down across from me. Even from a distance, I could smell the strong stench of cigarettes on him. So where's the Liu's fiancé from? He asked. As he spoke, he pulled out a crumpled pack of cigarettes, took one out, and tossed it onto my lap. Then he lit one for himself. Liu Ryan replied curtly, he's from the city. I picked up the unfiltered cigarette from my lap, set it on the table, and said, thanks, but I don't smoke. Her uncle exhaled a puff of smoke. A man in the world. He trailed off, his tone implying a deeper meaning. Smoking and drinking are must-haves, her uncle continued, especially when two strangers meet for the first time. Offer a cigarette and the bond is instantly closer. Uncle speaks from experience. I nodded non-committally, letting him ramble on without responding. He went into a long-winded speech, and Liu Ryan eventually cut him off. What brings you here, uncle? She asked directly. It's about your cousin, he said. He's gotten into college, but we're a little short on the tuition fees. Liu Ryan frowned. A junior college's tuition can't be that much. He chuckled sheepishly. Not much, just 20,000 yuan. Hearing that, I thought to myself, that's not a little short, that's the entire amount. Then he turned to me. Oh, by the way, I forgot to ask. Liu's fiancé, did her father introduce you to? You must be from a wealthy family. Liu Ryan waved her hand dismissively. I found him myself, she said. He's just a salesman, not much money. Her uncle gave an awkward laugh. Even so, that's still better than us farmers. The elderly woman came out of the house with a small cloth pouch. This is all I've got, she said. It's not enough though, you'll have to ask someone else. Seeing her grandmother extend the pouch, Liu Ryan quickly blocked her uncle's hand. Grandma, this is your medicine and retirement money. You can't give it away. The elderly woman sighed. Your uncle is in trouble. If we can help, we should help. Her uncle brushed Liu Ryan's hand aside. This is my mother, he declared. As long as I'm around, she never have to worry about her old age. I felt it wasn't my place to intervene, but his words stung, especially as he seemed to classify Liu Ryan as an outsider. Once he had pocketed the money, he stood up to leave. At that moment, his son Liu Ryan's cousin walked in. Dad, he exclaimed, the car outside is amazing. Do you know whose car that is? He asked. Then he looked at me. Since I was the only unfamiliar face in the village, and there weren't any other visitors that morning, he concluded it must belong to your cousin and her fiancé. Liu Ryan's cousin turned to her with an eager expression. Hey, sis, can I borrow it for a spin and shoot a video? I promise I won't scratch it. Before Liu Ryan could respond, her uncle interjected. You idiot, you think you can handle driving that? I'll drive it. You can sit next to me and watch. Then he turned to Liu Ryan. His meaning clear. Hand over the keys. Liu Ryan's voice turned icy. You're not worthy, she said. And one more thing. Give back the money you took from Grandma for her medical expenses. Or else we're not done here. Her uncle's face darkened. We're not done. I'll tell you who's not done here. Your mom's gone, isn't she? So isn't it your job to take care of your grandma? You have such a rich dad. How much have you spent on your grandma? Every time you visit, it's just a bunch of food. Is it that big a deal this time? He pointed outside. And that car? It's just a fancy hunk of junk. Driving it back here to show off. Did you earn the money to buy it? What's wrong with me taking it for a spin? You think I'm not good enough because I'm from the countryside? Don't forget, he added venomously, your dad and mom were from the countryside too. Just because you've lived in the city a few days, don't forget what you really are. I quickly stepped in to diffuse the tension. Ryan didn't mean it like that, I said. He turned to me with disdain. And who are you to speak here? Just a freeloader living off her family. You're only with her because her family has money. Well, let me tell you something. Your plan's not going to work. All her family's money is going to her stepmother and her two brothers. You'll get nothing out of being with her, he sneered. Liu Ryan grabbed her rice bowl and hurled it at him. Her uncle didn't back down. He picked up a wooden pole and swung it. I quickly stepped forward, shielding Liu Ryan with my body. All I felt was a dull thud on my head. A sticky, warm liquid began to trickle down my scalp. Liu Ryan was horrified. Zhang Wanson, are you all right? Her uncle, seeing my face covered in blood, immediately turned and fled with his son. Liu Ryan dashed into the kitchen, grabbed a cleaver, and prepared to give chase. I wrapped my arms tightly around her waist to stop her. He's not worth it, I said. You promised me you wouldn't fight. The elderly woman stood to the side, wiping her tears, unsure of what to say. Liu Ryan gradually calmed down. My blood had smeared all over her clothes. The village doctor gave me a simple bandage and some antibiotics before leaving. Liu Ryan's hands hovered nervously in the air, unsure where to place them. She wanted to touch me, but was afraid of causing pain. I'm sorry, she murmured. Does it still hurt? I shook my head slightly. Hearing you apologize to me is already a rarity, but now, leaving early isn't an option anymore. If anyone outside sees me like this, they'll start spreading wild rumors again. At lunch, Grandma slaughtered a chicken to make me some nourishing soup. Liu Ryan personally fed me the chicken soup, making me feel both embarrassed and flattered. As she wiped the corner of my mouth, she muttered, "Idiot, he couldn't have hurt me." Why did you? I held my head. Even trying to help you, I messed it up. Really feels like a dog biting the hand that feeds it. That last word is pronounced bin, she corrected. Annoyed, I replied, thanks, but I don't need your grammar lessons. I was just padding my word count, she teased. That evening, as we lay down to sleep, I nudged her slightly. Did you forget something? I asked softly. She lightly punched me. Seems like I didn't hit you hard enough earlier. Despite her teasing words, she wriggled out from under her blanket and slid into mine. Just as I was about to enjoy her affectionate gesture, a car alarm blared outside. It was Liu Ryan's car. She got up, put on her coat, and prepared to check it out. I offered to go with her, but she stopped me. I watched as she grabbed a cleaver from the kitchen, leashed Zihei, and stepped into the courtyard. Not long after, she returned, secured the courtyard gate, tied Zihei back up, and came into the house. The elderly woman, worried, asked, "What happened, Ryan?" Liu Ryan quickly replied, "Nothing." She reassured Grandma and coaxed her back to bed. After taking off her coat, she slid into her bed. Her back turned to me. I whispered, "What happened?" She didn't respond. It wasn't hard to guess. Her car had probably been vandalized, most likely by her uncle. I slipped under her blanket, wrapped my arms around her waist. She didn't resist, so I grew bolder and kissed her earlobe. She immediately retaliated with an elbow to my side. As I was about to apologize, she slowly turned around, wrapped her arms tightly around me, and began to cry softly. I gently stroked her back. "Don't worry," I said. "I'll handle everything." The next day, I saw the damage for myself. The car's windows were smashed. "Ungrateful wretch" was scrawled across the door with stones, and the seats were smeared with excrement. The car was completely unusable. Furious, Liu Ryan grabbed the cleaver, ready to demand justice. I stopped her. "This is the village," I said. "There are no cameras, no solid evidence, and he's your elder. What could you possibly gain by confronting him, even if he admits it? Do you really think he'll pay for the damages?" Liu Ryan glared hatefully in the direction of her uncle's house. "So that's it, we're just letting it go. A wise person avoids unnecessary conflict," I reply. "This place isn't safe for us to stay." With that, I took out my phone and sent our current location to someone. But what about my grandma? She asked. Djibouti just opened a new senior care home, I said. It's in the suburbs, with excellent facilities and a great environment. It'll be easy for us to visit her there. She lowered her head. It must be expensive. I wrapped my arm around her shoulders. That's just a matter of one word from you. She looked up at me curiously. Which word? Every word from Mrs. Liu is an imperial decree, I teased. To my surprise, her face flushed red. You don't mind me? I was puzzled. Mind what? Your family background is spotless, she said softly. You're honest, handsome, and apart from a slight temper, you're nearly perfect. She raised her arm. What about this? She asked, gesturing at her tattoos. Tattoos are everywhere these days, I replied. They're not illegal. Why would I care? You really don't mind? If you love someone, you love all of them, their flaws included. And honestly, there's nothing bad about your tattoos. They're quite intimidating, even. She hugged me tightly around the waist. Then I'll have them removed. Otherwise, I won't be able to wear a wedding dress. I ruffled her hair gently. Removing them will hurt. If you're worried about them, we'll just use arm sleeves or concealer to cover them up. Nothing will get in the way. She didn't say anything else, but her eyes were full of affection. Not long after, my convoy arrived. It was an impressive lineup of off-road vehicles, driven by a group of affluent off-road enthusiasts. On regular days, besides off-road trips, the group also participates in rescue missions. I had recently replaced my car with the Lotus Elise. After taking over the sales business, Djibouti tossed me a set of keys. So how did you and your wife end up here? I nodded toward Liu Ryan. It's her hometown, I said. We came to help relocate her grandma. I didn't bother correcting the wife title, essentially confirming our relationship publicly. Honestly, anyone could see it at a glance. Liu Ryan's eyes were full of affection whenever she looked at me. Out of nowhere, she suddenly asked, "Can your senior apartment allow dogs?" In principle, no, I said. Many residents need a quiet environment for recovery, but I have a large estate nearby where Zihei can stay, and it's not far from the apartment. Amid the murmurs of the villagers, our convoy rumbled away in grand fashion. It wasn't about showing off. I just didn't want to risk anything with the smaller group. Liu Ryan painted a picture of the apartment's comforts for her grandma. 3 meals delivered daily, a private bathroom with a proper toilet, a shower, an activity room, and even a large TV. On the way, I asked Liu Ryan, "What should we do with your car?" "Whatever you want," she said flatly. I don't want to see it again. It disgusts me. After settling her grandma into the senior home, I brought Liu Ryan back home and formally announced our relationship to my family. To my surprise, my parents had little objection. She studied jewelry design, they said, so she's already part of the industry. As long as you're happy, we're fine with it. Liu Ryan smiled. Your parents are so open-minded. I'm so envious. I rubbed my still battered head. What's there to envy? Once the wedding date's set, they'll be your asterisk parents too. She hugged my head tightly, and for once, it felt like we were perfectly aligned. Does it still hurt? She asked gently. I took the opportunity to wrap my arms around her waist. Of course it does. Good thing my head isn't made of dough. Or where would you find such a perfect husband like me? When we went to pick out her wedding dress, I noticed something unusual. Where are your tattoos? I got rid of them, she said. I held her arms up. Her skin smooth and pure as jade, soft like lotus roots. I teasingly licked my fingers and rubbed her arm. She gave me a disgusted look. That's so gross. I told you, I washed them off. Still confused, I asked, but doesn't tattoo removal leave scars? Technology is quite advanced now, she replied. Not even a mark is left. She shook her head in exasperation. My tattoos were real, yes, but I never said they were done with needles. They were painted on by a master abroad using special pigments. A little iodine is all it takes to wash them off. I blinked in disbelief. I see. Guess I was just ignorant. She continued, before that, I used tattoo stickers, and they worked quite well. Waterproof. And didn't fade. But later, people started noticing, saying they looked fake. So I switched to this method. I wanted to ask why she didn't just tell the truth earlier. But before the question left my lips, I figured it out myself. It was simply a matter of testing sincerity, if someone truly loved her. Why would they care about such things? True love is about improving oneself. Before helping to uplift the person they love, when the jewelry design competition officially began, Liu Ryan would wake up before dawn to head to the study, and wouldn't return to bed until late at night. I finally asked, why are you pushing yourself so hard? Her answer was just for words, brilliant star. It was clear she hadn't forgotten about that matter. And I could understand why. To a designer, their work is like their child. Plagiarizing someone's design is no different from human trafficking. The competition's jury was made up of top-tier industry experts. As sponsors and organizers, we were allotted one special entry slot. This allowed a contestant to secure a decent ranking, regardless of the quality of their work. It was an open secret in the industry. Ultimately, designs from such competitions either found buyers or didn't. Winning an award didn't guarantee a piece would become a hot commodity. After all, only a select few could afford these items anyway. The design director, Shen Yachu, entered the competition with her piece gold and jade prosperity The inspiration came from a recently popular TV drama. The final product was stunning, from the necklace pendant to the dangling earrings and the ring. Everything was crafted using the traditional technique of gold inlaid with jade. This beautifully reinforced the theme, exuding elegance and grandeur. It was the perfect complement to Chinese-style formal wear. The effect on the model was outstanding, and the judges lavished it with praise. Truly worthy of being a disciple of a master, they said. It was almost certain she would take first place this year. Meanwhile, Liu Ryan's entry, Lover's Galaxy, was inspired by the starry skies of her hometown and the gaze of her lover. As she unveiled her work, the entire audience's eyes turned toward me in the crowd. I could only offer an awkward smile. This set of jewelry was primarily crafted with small diamonds. The centerpiece design revolved around constellations intertwined with subtle, romantic details. The design used black tourmaline as its base, making it dazzling under the spotlight. The ring featured a hidden mechanism that allowed it to split into two parts, though not as two separate bands. The black tourmaline and the scattered diamonds complemented each other beautifully, imbued with symbolic meaning. The pendant resembled a pupil, suspended on a platinum chain, adorned with tiny diamonds, evoking the image of the Milky Way draped around the wearer's neck. The effect on the model was equally stunning. Both designs came from the same company, one by the senior director, the other by the future lady boss. The judges murmured among themselves, struggling to reach a decision. In terms of price, neither piece was cheap. However, in terms of audience appeal, the consensus was that gold and jade prosperity felt too traditional. Though the design was grand, it had limited compatibility with outfits. By contrast, Liu Ryan's Lover's Galaxy was highly versatile, and so the judges unanimously awarded it first place. Shen Yachu shook hands with Liu Ryan. I concede, she said graciously. Brilliant star, rightfully yours. With the two of them reconciling, the plagiarism controversy quietly came to an end. Both were so talented that it might really have been a case of coincidental overlap in ideas. Meanwhile, our wedding planning began in earnest. The groomsmen were on high alert, ready to fend off any attempts to steal the bride. I thought their concerns were excessive. Who'd have the guts to challenge her? I joked. They wouldn't dare take her even if I offered her up. Messing with her would be asking for trouble. Liu Ryan, with her fiery personality, didn't have many close friends, so I had to assemble the bridesmaids myself. Even if her stepmother didn't treat her well, She still had to keep up appearances. After all, Liu Ryan was marrying into the Zhou jewelry dynasty, becoming the future lady boss. From now on, if you want exclusive items, don't you have to prioritize your own family first? With a wave of generosity, Liu Ryan's stepmother gifted her 3 valuable properties and a brand new Lamborghini Aventador. The only thing Liu Ryan disliked was that the car was yellow again. The day before the wedding, we visited Liu Ryan's grandmother at the senior care apartment. She could no longer get out of bed. In truth, she was already in the late stages of her illness when we brought her there. Liu Ryan knew this as well. Painkillers were the only thing that allowed her to sleep. She looked at our marriage certificate, smiling faintly despite her condition. "Now I can go in peace," she said softly. "Don't say that," Liu Ryan replied, gripping her hand tightly. "You'll live a long life. Didn't you say you wanted to see my kids one day?" Her grandmother reached for something beside her bed, a small box. Inside was a pair of plain gold wedding bands. The engraving inside proved they were an early product of Zhou Jewelry's predecessor, Zhou Goldsmiths. Liu Ryan turned to me, tears streaming, and collapsed into my arms, sobbing uncontrollably. I gently patted her back, trying to comfort her. The wedding proceeded as planned. Everyone speculated about what kind of extravagant, dazzling wedding rings the Zhou Jewelry empire would unveil. To everyone's surprise, what was presented were those very same simple gold rings. Even the officiant explained their significance. "This pair of rings is a piece of history. They were the very first products sold by Zhou Goldsmiths, the predecessor to Zhou Jewelry, and the couple who originally bought them were none other than Miss Liu's grandparents. What a divine union this is, for these rings to find their way back to Zhou Jewelry and become a testament to the new generation's lifelong commitment. Let us give the warmest applause to wish the newlyweds a love as enduring as gold, a happy and fulfilling life, and an eternal bond." After exchanging rings, we embraced tightly. "Now," the officiant declared, "the groom may kiss his bride." When the ceremony concluded, I was utterly drained, while Liu Ryan seemed as vibrant as ever. I couldn't figure out where she got her energy. She really should be in sales. I glanced at the ring on my finger. "So this really was the first pair of rings my family sold?" Liu Ryan shrugged. "How would I know? There's no serial number engraved on it. Probably just the officiant making things up." She wrapped her arms around my waist, and I found myself still adjusting to her tattoo-free arms. There must be something wrong with me. "Now, she's mine," I thought. "Now, you're mine," she said aloud. I froze. "What do you mean by that?" Before I could react, she grabbed me and threw me onto the bed in a mock wrestling move. Before I could recover, she had me pinned down, gripping me in a way that left no escape. "Today, I'm laying down the household rules," she declared. "You must strictly follow them, or else." My eyes widened in shock, and I nodded vigorously. "I understand. I'll follow every rule. Just, can I make one small request?" "Go ahead," she said, smirking. "Since I'm in a good mood, I'll grant you anything." I held up 2 fingers. "A kiss before bed." She didn't even let me finish. Before I could say more, she leaned in and kissed me. "Why all the extra talk?" she teased. "If you want a kiss, just kiss me. We're officially married now, aren't we?"